เป็นยังไงกันบ้างครับเรียบร้อยแล้วนะครับสำหรับ Session Agriculture เรื่องการเกษตรที่เป็นอะไรที่ลึกลับซับซ้อนกว่าที่เราคิดกันนะครับเทคโนโลยีเข้ามาช่วยเรียกว่าผลักดันแทบจะทุกอินดัสทรีที่เราดูกันตลอดทั้งวันวันนี้นะครับเราก็จะเห็นแล้วว่าอะไรเป็นอวัยวะสำคัญในการผลักดันแล้วก็เพื่อให้ร่างกายที่เรียกว่าเทคโนโลยีแล้วก็อินดัสทรีทุกอันเคลื่อนตัวข้างหน้ามาพร้อมกันเราจะขาดอันนี้ไปไม่ได้ครับส่วนสุดท้ายเขาเรียกว่า IoT Universe Platform นะครับเหมือนกับดักอากาศที่เรามองไม่เห็นเนี่ยแต่ว่าแพลตฟอร์มเหล่านี้ทำงานอยู่ตลอดเวลานะครับทั้งผมก็อยากรู้แล้วสิว่ามันทำงานกันยังไงเรามีกูรูทุกท่านจะมาอธิบายให้เพื่อนๆพี่ๆน้องๆที่ฟังทางบ้านเข้าใจกันมากขึ้นนะครับผมก็อยากจะดูมากเลยเซสชั่นสุดท้ายนี้เป็นเซสชั่นสุดท้ายนะครับยังไงก็อยากให้ทุกท่านชมจนจบนะครับไปพบกับทุกท่านได้เลยครับ
ปัจจุบันอุตสาหกรรมและธุรกิจจำนวนมากกำลังเผชิญปัญหาจากการเปลี่ยนแปลงในยุคดิจิทัลจากพฤติกรรมผู้บริโภคที่เปลี่ยนแปลงไปตามเทคโนโลยีทำให้ลูกค้าในหลากหลายธุรกิจเริ่มคาดหวังบริการที่รวดเร็วสะดวกสบายพร้อมข้อมูลที่โปร่งใสและแม่นยำมากยิ่งขึ้นเราเชื่อในเรื่อง Digital is a core หรือการใช้เทคโนโลยีเป็นหัวใจในการขับเคลื่อนธุรกิจให้เติบโตอย่างมั่นคงและเกิดประสิทธิภาพในทุกกระบวนการ
หน่วยงาน Digital Solution นะครับอยู่ภายใต้ True Digital Group เราคือพาร์ทเนอร์นะครับที่สร้างนวัตกรรมเพื่อไปตอบโจทย์ลูกค้าระดับองค์กรในทุกภาคส่วนรวมไปถึงบุคคลทั่วไป Digital Convergence เนี่ยมันมีอยู่ประมาณ5เทคโนโลยีหลักทั้งเรื่องของ IoT AI เรื่องของ Analytics ตามด้วย Blockchain แล้วก็ Cyber Security การสร้างนวัตกรรมเนี่ยต้องอาศัยความเข้าใจอาศัยความชำนาญแล้วก็อาศัย Expertise เพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยรีสอร์ทต่างๆที่มันอยู่ใน True Digital Group เนี่ยมันจะสามารถ combine นะครับแล้วก็ตอบโจทย์ในเชิงธุรกิจได้เราเวิร์กกับพาร์ทเนอร์ระดับ World Class นะครับเพื่อจะหยิบจับเทคโนโลยีที่ดีที่สุดเพื่อให้เข้ามา Integration กับสิ่งที่เรามีในระบบนิเวศภายในเพราะฉะนั้นพอเรารวมทั้งภายในและภายนอกแล้วเนี่ยมันคือสิ่งที่เราเรียกว่า Complete Ecosystem ครับ
ความแข็งแกร่งของการทำงานร่วมกันระหว่างเทคโนโลยีต่างๆทำให้หน่วยงาน Digital Solution สามารถเชื่อมต่อข้อมูลทั้งหมดจากทุกอุปกรณ์จากเทคโนโลยี IoT นำข้อมูลไปรวบรวมเพื่อวิเคราะห์ข้อมูลร่วมกันระหว่าง AI และทีม Data Scientist เพิ่มความปลอดภัยและโปร่งใสด้วยการนำเทคโนโลยีบล็อกเชนมาใช้ควบคู่ไปกับการจัดการของระบบ Cyber Security เพื่อให้มั่นใจได้ว่าข้อมูลทั้งหมดนั้นจะได้รับความปลอดภัยทางไซเบอร์อย่างสูงสุด
มันคือความมุ่งมั่นของ Digital Solution ที่จะเอาเทคโนโลยีไปตอบโจทย์จริงๆในทุกภาคส่วนเพื่อให้ผลประโยชน์สูงสุดและมีการเจริญเติบโตอย่างมั่นคงและก็ยั่งยืนครับ
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, loud and clear.
All right. So, welcome everyone. I think we are on air and on the last sessions of today, which was the most exciting one on IoT and Universal Platform. So just to introduce quickly myself, so my name is Jack and I'm currently Regional Managing Director for Insider across Southeast Asia. And we are currently serving building the customer journey for many top collaborations and big companies, especially through ID Central Group and FWD in Thailand as well. So I think it's quite related to what we are talking about today, which is building a universal platform. So, and together with me today, we also have amazing lineup of speakers from Cloudflare, from Dynatrace, from True Digital, and also from Appsflyer. So could not demand more. So let me start by explaining why we're having this last sessions is that Thailand, as you know, is definitely the top country in ASEAN for enterprise, right, to explore and to implement IoT. Because there is certain advantage that we know about Thailand versus other countries like the 5G services. There is a strong, flexible, and scalable about 30,000 active IoT devices, and especially very affordable and accommodates small devices as well. And on top of that, there's also challenges that I think a lot of speakers will talk about, which is the broadband internet, the innovations, IoT platform infrastructure, data security, etc. But the overall opportunity and outlook for me personally is huge, right? It's going to rise to about nearly 3 billion in around 20 and 23rd. So that is a landscape of what we see. But of course, for every company to take part in this and to benefit in this, it requires much more than digital transformations. There is much more than that. So our hope is in the next 35 minutes, we can provide some real practices, some real behind the scenes, of how each of the different players and companies will contribute to make a great universal IoT. So this is where we are. So with that, my first question actually would go to Mr. Sulabh he's currently the head of international B2B business of True Digital. So maybe can you share a bit about yourself, a little bit for all of the audience?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much, Jack, for moderating this session. Thank you to my other co-panelists as well for making this event a success for us at True Digital. So as you mentioned, Jack, I head our international B2B business. So looking at our portfolio of solutions across many different verticals. At the moment, we are present in, of course, Thailand, but also major markets of Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam. Very soon you'll see us in Malaysia as well. So True Digital Group was formed about 4-ish years ago as a sister company of True Corporation, which I think everyone is aware is one of the major telcos here in Thailand. And the idea really was, how do we expand our footprint to more than just a connectivity provider and expand into various digital solutions, whether they're in B2C space through our digital media platforms or through our analytics business. Our business is in digital health, digital academy. And then, of course, pertinent to myself and others here is our IoT and digital solutions business. So that's a little bit about True Digital, perhaps.
Appreciate it. So as you guys have heard, right? So there's of course a sister companies to our beloved True Telco. But of course, there is a wide range coverage of services from B2C to analytics. So I think it all ties up to the Internet of Things, right? And the interesting is about the wording. So Internet of Things. So I think talking about the things that we talk about here, right? So the local network, technically from the point of view of True and also from the point of Telco, the local network technically connect all of the devices that we have on the internet. Like my mobile phone is connected to True as well, for example. So in order for all of this Internet of Things to happen, I think Telco and who hold the network play a very critical part. So what are the fundamental and building blocks? I call it play field, right? Like in soccer, for all of this to work.
Yeah, no, it's honestly a very important and a complicated question, right? But essentially, we all talk about the internet. We talk about the applications and what these devices and the data can do, which is super important. But there's the whole things side of it, where it comes to the devices. And if you think about it, right, you've got to have the individual sensors. They need to speak to a common platform or to the internet. And what we are seeing, of course, you've got devices that are connecting through your traditional internet routes, whether that's your cell phone technology or your broadband technology. But honestly, that doesn't work for the vast majority of sensors, which need to be deployed at scale and need to be at substantially lower power consumption. Right, so a whole ecosystem of what is now known as low power wide area networks, LPWAN technologies have emerged. We're seeing several different protocols and standards emerge. I think some of the most well-known ones are, of course, LoRaWAN, SIGFLY, NB-IoT standards have now emerged. And in a way, they're all different languages, right? So when you pick a device, it speaks that one language, and it has to connect to an IoT platform that also then speaks that language. And at the moment, I don't know which one will win, if we will see one clear winner. I think what has emerged are distinct use cases for each of these alliances, each of these ecosystems, and I foresee that to continue for some time. That, of course, gives a telco like ours a bit of a headache, and we have to, decide where to invest and where to go. But you also brought up the broader ecosystem, right? And one thing I want to point out that is particularly very exciting is the coming of age of 5G type connectivities, 5G, as we all know, is today capable of connecting at the maximum broadband speeds even. So what I foresee will happen is we'll start seeing a big move towards more and more cloud-based services, right? Today, for a lot of applications, we simply cannot do the computing on the cloud because the bandwidth cannot be maintained between the sensor and the internet, right? So you see edge computers, you see a lot of local on-prem server deployments, which are expensive, which have to be maintained, which consume power. And so I think as for a telco, the other thing that's exciting is we'll start seeing more and more high-speed connections, either powered through the low-power network or through the traditional cell phone networks that'll enable more and more cloud computing to take place. So when I think of a universal platform, I think that's still really lacking. I think that's still a bit of a misnomer. Maybe one will emerge, but it is of course important, and think of it as a common language for everything to speak to each other.
Yeah, I think so. In layman term, right, for our audience, of course, is that think of the devices speak one languages, and then all of the IoT platforms speak another languages. So of course, the fact of whether or not it's going to be unified, it's going to be decided by multiple factors. But there is a clear trend, I think, that you shared, that there's going to be a lot of investment on high-speed connection, right, to ensure that we can really compute those big data, because otherwise, then none of this is gonna happen, right? So thank you for that, and I think it ties naturally to the next one, is that assuming we got like that play field. Of course, now the field is not fully decided by the languages, but we had a playing field, and we get two soccer team, right, that could get on the field. Then of course there is a lot of interface to talk between the back-end system and also in the form of API call, because like my phone, right, talking to that IoT platform, and for it to be fully work, then it got to be secure as well, because we are technically extracting the data from the personal devices as well, and also even from the business point of view too. So for this matter, I think it's our honor today also to have Mr. Vincent. He's currently leading the regional for ASEAN for Cloudflare with us, and I think Cloudflare is no stranger to many of our audience here. So welcome, Vincent. Maybe you can intro yourself a bit, and after that you can share about what do you think about the security of the network and how Cloudflare can play in the whole universal IoT system here, and why that's so critical for this in IoT.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Hi. Yeah, first I'd like to thank you again for moderating, and also True Digital for having me here today. Yeah, really appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, so today I run Cloudflare business across a few countries in Asia, including Thailand, and I'm physically based in Singapore. Yeah, so first, a quick introduction about Cloudflare very quickly. So over the past 10 years or so, Cloudflare has been developing an intelligent global cloud platform and network, okay, that we think is one of the largest in the internet, with more than 200 points of presence across 100 countries. Okay, as a network, we are also one of the most peered on the internet, meaning we interconnect with like 9,000 other networks, with all the major hyperscalers network and all that. So yeah, and this network, besides the hyperscalers, the ISP, cloud services, even enterprises, so very peered and large. So our platform today and services today, we ensure that application devices, APIs, people could access services they need safer, faster, and more reliably. So that's a bit about Cloudflare, right? From an IoT system perspective, we see IoT is made up of a few components, right? The whole system, the devices, yeah, the local network that connects the devices to the internet or the WAN itself, and then the backend system that runs somewhere, right? It could be on-prem or in the cloud, somewhere in the world, or maybe even locally sometimes, right? Because of the rise of edge computing. So Cloudflare provides the platform and the network, okay, that secure, accelerate the connection between IoT devices and the backend system. Okay, and a lot of the interface to the backend system from the devices we see today are in the form of API calls. Yeah, and Cloudflare offer products such as API Shield that will enforce like a positive security model. Yeah, making sure that only authorized IoT devices, yeah, could we check whether the devices are authorized before allowing them to connect to the backend. So we are like the guard before allowing them to connect to the backend. And how we do it is using mutual TLS authentication, and also check the API calls itself. Yeah, check the schema whether it's in the right format. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and that reduces the chances of rogue IoT devices making unauthorized access to backend system, which can store a lot of critical data.
I see. So in the layman term, what we can imagine is like, I think you are the guard that before you go on the playing football field, right? You got to be like, you're not using drug, you got to be COVID 100% safety, because otherwise when you go on that, you're going to be like biting people and creating a lot of problem, right? So I think this is important because we put the wrong devices, the wrong access devices to the system, then it could spoofing, it could create a lot of drama, as I imagine. So later we'll come back as well to you on more of the real things that are happening behind the scene. And I think you have a lot to share on that. So assuming, right, we got the player on the field and then they are safe and sound, right? They comply to the rules. Then I think IoT eventually is a format of data collections, right? And also in the device way. So there is a lot of that come to the applications, as Vincent has mentioned. Tons and tons of applications is running. Like the phone is running, the app is running, tons of data is being collected and being sent across the network. So I think we have a term like garbage in and garbage out, right? Like IoT can only work if the data we send, okay, now it can be sent, but whether it's accurate or not, whether it's reliable or not, because wrong decisions could lead to, I think, $1 billion of loss. So how to handle that amount of data to come up with something actionable. So we also have here an amazing speaker from Dynatrace, I think Akbar. He's right now the country manager for Dynatrace. So maybe, Akbar, can you introduce yourself a bit? And also, how can we really ensure data collections in this world? There's so many data points. And I'm sure you work with tons of different vertical industry. And why is it so hard to do, but it's yet very critical?
Well, hello and sorry to everyone. And first, thanks, Jack. I think I would like to take this opportunity to thank True Digital and Insider for allowing me to be here. But before I start, Jack, what is your favorite football team? You've been giving analogies to football.
Oh man, this is Europe, right? So I guess yesterday night, Italian, everybody's watching that. So I think people are more related and want to get de-stress a bit, yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, so let me just quickly give a quick update about or brief what Dynatrace is. So Dynatrace is an observability platform, and we are a market leader according to multiple third-party consultants, analysts such as Gartner, G2, Forrester. So we are a market leader for that reason. What we do is, you see, we live in a world which is run by applications. You gave example of smartphones. Sulabh talked about endpoint devices connecting to a different network using different topology network, right? Vincent talked about security, again mentioned about applications. So we live in a world which is being driven by applications. And these applications are responsible, that is collecting the data, which is then sending to the backend to other applications, multiple other application servers going through multiple hops within the local network, cloud, on-premise, so many hops before it actually gets into the servers and then gets analyzed and then convert into meaningful information that businesses then look at it. So imagine if an application that is running on that IoT device has issues and there's a delay, even for a millisecond. Imagine that 1 millisecond could trigger to multiple milliseconds and seconds, an amount of data gets lost. And that data loss means impact to the bottom line of the business. So what Dynatrace does is, because it's an observability platform, we make sure that we provide end-to-end visibility from the endpoint, from the front end, all the way to the back end. The data is being stored and collected in a real-time basis, and providing you with information such as metadata, such as behavior, such as where the data is coming from, whether the data that is going to multiple hops, if there are any issues happening in those hops, whether it's a language, the programming language, a network or infrastructure, whatever it may be, where exactly the problem is and how to fix it, going to the root cause directly without any manual interventions or completely based on AI. Because our environment today, I guess Sulabh would agree, and so would Vincent and Tam everywhere, we live in an environment which is very, very complex. The data that is being collected under multiple applications, it is humanly almost impossible to identify. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. Humanly almost impossible. So you need to rely on AI to allow you to go to the trillions of data that you're collecting and in a real-time basis, in micro milliseconds, to identify where the problem is. And that's what Dynatrace does, provide you that visibility end-to-end to identify exactly where the problem is and making sure that your application is running perfectly. Otherwise, imagine you're trying to, today, let's say you're wearing a smartwatch, right? And the smartwatch has an application running on it, which is for health, which is linked to your insurer, your health insurance. And your health insurance is your premium is dependent on your health. So you are exercising, you're not smoking, you're not addicted, your premium keeps on going down. And this is happening around the world, right? So that, imagine you are also accessing the same insurance application through your mobile phone, through your web access, and multiple other platforms. Imagine having a problem in that application which is feeding in the wrong data, or the data is not correct, or the data is missing. So that will impact to the business and also to you as well, because then the insurance will not be able to provide you that benefit that you've been exercising. Similarly, just a quick another real example, we go out to our stores to buy drinks, to buy ice creams, right? We go to a refrigerator, we open the refrigerator, we buy ice cream, for example. And the ice cream is not in the right temperature. So you may buy once, but the second time you may not go to the store because you realize that the ice cream that you bought is not correct. Either it's melting or you feel ice crystals when you have an ice cream. So imagine an IoT device that maybe the retail store is running, and that which allows you to give the data input about the maintenance of the refrigerator, the temperature, how many times it's opened, it closes. And I take a step further. Imagine you go to a retail store, you pick up an ice cream, you put in a cart, in your bag, in your trolley, and automatically it's added to your shopping, to your list, and you don't need to even check out. There's a credit card already, you have an app on it, and it automatically charges for your credit card on the shopping basket, right? Now, there's an IoT device that does that. So imagine that IoT device, that application that is running has an issue, right? So there are a lot of real-time use cases that we work with globally, and more than happy to discuss later, I guess, if time allows, to showcase what we can do. But that's pretty much what Dynatrace does, is providing the visibility end-to-end from your endpoint, from your IoT device, all the way to the backend to your service, wherever they may be running, on-premise or cloud, regardless of the network topology they use.
I think it ties perfectly, right? So that if the data is secure and we ensure that they're allowed to extract those, then we can still have tons of data. So I think you mentioned 3 points. Number one is real time, because most of the use cases are really real time from what I hear just now, and it should be to bring the most value. And then the second is that how to monitor, or use the word like observing, right? So observations. So how can you monitor from the front to the back that what we think we collect is really what we collect, right? And the third one is that it sees so many things. So human cannot do this. So if you want to join this IoT games, then of course player like Dynatrace, we ensure that AI factor, we just bring it down to like millisecond or split of second, right? To alert you where some glitch going wrong, so that you fix it before you lose the billions of dollars, even on ice cream melting. No one like ice cream melting, sir. I personally don't. So that's a great one. And I think you mentioned a lot about applications, and I think that Appsflyer and Insider we are great partners. And I think people say that Southeast Asia is a mobile first market, right? But I think only the people who are inside those really know that we are really, really mobile first. Like comparing this to like Australia or even in the US or UK, like this is crazy. Those who are working in Indonesia will know that even retail business, they have an application, for example, which is not the same in Vietnam. And I know Central Group in there is so big in loyalty, right? And they also are moving most of the BU to the application as well. So I think that is the directions that everybody is getting to, and which it means that the mobile phone will be the gateway to this IoT end touch point. So with that, I think Appsflyer has tons of insight into how the user are evolving to the usages of mobile. And I think the best person we have here today is, of course, Mr. Tan, and he's currently the Director of Partner Development in SEAPAC. Sir, welcome to the show, and maybe you can introduce a bit about you, also Appsflyers. I'm a big fan of Appsflyers myself, and after that, would be great to hear that. What do you think about the statement that mobile is a starting point or even the end point? I'm not sure about the end point, but starting point of IoT. And what is the role in the IoT system? And how do you see this trend from your end, so with user mobility across all different verticals in industries?
Thank you very much, Jack. And yes, pleasure to be here. And that's a great question. I love this panel where we're coming from IoT at all different angles, but I think we all have a similar concept of understanding the universal journey. I think from my side, Appsflyer, of course, we're the leading attribution marketing and analytics provider in the world. And IoT is a major disruptor with many impacted dimensions, as we can tell from this panel. And the majority of us are connected to a computer or a mobile phone. And for an individual, IoT can bring tremendous personalization for a variety of services. And that starts with the mobile phone that we all have next to us and all the applications. And really, that's the starting point to connect all the dots for consumers and users to be able to go through a journey and make sure it's a relevant experience for them. Southeast Asia being mobile first, we see a tremendous trend and pickup of online and mobile applications, mobile first banking, super apps that not only deliver your food, but could probably also help you with finding insurance. It's a tremendous amount of data at the end of the day. And it's really important to be on a unified platform to be able to address your consumers accurately on their mobile phones.
So I think you mentioned about two key things, right? So one is personalizations, because it allows us, because in the speed of real-time second from Dynatrace, right, we can really trigger all of those micro moments of personalizations. And most of even the traditional field like banking, right, has already been moved there with the digital banking, transforming, etc. And from Insider, we see the same thing. Like there is a lot of use cases because of COVID, people could not go offline, right? So they try to maximize whatever they have in the offline touch points and just to migrate all of the user in real times into online. So recently, there is a lot of changes, as you know, in Google and also in Apple into the likes of data security. And why this is important for IoT is because if the control and the owner of the input to the whole system doesn't allow us to get the data, then I don't think that any of this IoT will work. If I don't allow you to get my heartbeat or my ice cream tasted or where my house is, then of course the ice cream gonna melt. That's for sure, and they can complain, right? So I think that's an important thing, and it's a two-way street. There is a business side, there's an end user side. We want to make money, user want to be safe, and also enjoy the services. So both sides need to be happy. So I think Cloudflare monitor this very closely, as Vincent already shared. But maybe Vincent, can you share some of the real cases or observation and insight when you analyze the tons of daily?
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Yeah. So I think from Cloudflare perspective, it makes sense to have this universal platform, so to speak. From a cybersecurity perspective, IoT or other areas as well, application or websites or devices, right? So I think it's super relevant, and I think the basic benefit would be like a single pane of glass or dashboard, so that somebody can see end to end, all the devices and have a consistent policy for everything, right? So I think that will be relevant. So from our platform, which we think is rather close to a universal platform today, because it services like 25 million websites or more. Today we block like 76 billion cybersecurity threats daily, thereabouts. I think we by operating this platform, we gain a very wide shared intelligence, on new threats and trends. I think faster than most other platforms in the market because of the sheer volume that we manage, right, or we can see, right? So with this intelligence, we are able to proactively mitigate threats, so that customers that is using our platform will feel safe, or will be safe because we can see them coming developing before others can. So I think to augment our capability, similar to Dynatrace, the capabilities of our system, we also augment it with AI and ML capabilities, AI and machine learning capabilities, to quickly identify and stop the bad guys and let the good guys through. So I think from our perspective, it makes sense.
You kind of remind me of the China ability to do the scoring, right, for each of the citizens. So I imagine myself is like a dot in the system right now. And if I get a score for myself that Jack is a decent citizen, right? That's what I'm observing. So great application, by the way. And I think the same thing is from the Google from Apple approach. They put a lot of restrictions on protecting the user. Like the user have the right to opt in, opt out of the data. They can say no. You download the app, you can say no, I don't want to be tracked across the application, etc., which is fair enough. So from Appsflyer's point of view, because I'm sure you have seen tons of data on, do people really care about that, or they still allows data to flows in? Because if they do, it gives like a clear, not hope, but it's like clear fact that IoT is still on the trends. This doesn't impact anything. So is there anything you want to share along that line? I know you have Protect 360, an amazing product as well. Yeah.
Yes, we do. I think at the core of everything is being able to be privacy centric and protecting your consumers and what they want to do with the data that is theirs. For us, we have always adopted that as a core fundamental aspect of our product. At the end of the day, Internet of Things, it's all about data, and how do you make sure you can rely on strong, secure, accurate data, and even data that's not opted into. How do you continue in business there? With regards to the latest changes, I think in Apple and Google, we're actually seeing pretty good trends. And the amount of opt-ins is much higher than we expected them to be. Of course, we're just early on right now. It's about 2-3 months in. But the trending seems pretty good, much more favorable in some places than others. And I'm not going to say this is exactly like GDPR or CCPA in other regions, but there's definitely an opportunity. I think consumers understand that they want to have their ice cream at the right temperature, and that data like this helps with those real-time decisions. And at the end of the day, it's important to have a platform, much like Vincent said, to have the single pane view, to be able to understand user behavior and what they want in real time from a consumer basis, and report on it accurately.
And I think the ice cream story beat my football player already. So far, I think we get replaced. I think we are hungry. So no, thanks, Dan. I think you give a hope in a fun way to us that actually the user, at least in these regions, they are okay, right? To give an exchange. Okay, this is my data. You protect me, and you give values back to me. So okay, fair game. So in terms of, I think over the network, of course, whatever we're talking about just now is being sent over the telco network, right? Technically. So Sulabh, is there anything you want to add in terms of guideline? Back to the question of protocol. So how does this serve to have a playing field that is safe for everyone's here to do for the user?
Yeah, so look, a very, very important topic, right? But one thing I want to highlight is well before IoT and the additional data from IoT came along, as a telco, we've been managing tons and tons of data, even before that, right? With millions of subscribers, everyone placing calls, going on the web, using different applications. So that data is all being funneled through the networks. And True certainly takes data security and privacy extremely importantly. Various systems are used to anonymize the data, to create the right metadata, to ensure that none of that is leaked or used in a wrongful manner. And that extends to the different digital solutions that we have deployed now. And it depends, right? I think on the B2C side, you've got a very different set of concerns. You've got individual private, privacy laws that govern that, and you've got obviously individual consumers worried about how their data is being used. And then on the industrial side, or rather the enterprise side, there's a very big concern around cybersecurity. How is that data being protected? And in more critical applications where there's also the actuation side, so we're talking about one way so far data coming in and being analyzed, but then there's also the actuation side where signals are being sent back to the devices and actuators, and there it's even more critical, especially in industrial applications, that there isn't in a mischievous or malicious rather use of that to control something or to get the data. No, very, very important topics. But I think a lot of safeguards are being placed. A lot of work is being done, and of course the ecosystem, of players like Appsflyer, Dynatrace, Cloudflare. They all come in with their unique solution that fits that overall puzzle. So I guess the picture I want to paint is there isn't, one sort of silver bullet that addresses this. It is a complicated jigsaw, and we all have a role to play in this to ensure that security and privacy is maintained.
Great. So it's already have a mix, right? The policy is set in places. Of course, law might change here and there, but all the players here is there to comply, right? And to build the safe way so that the whole ecosystem can grow safely forward. So I think people might think that, it sounds like we are still in a very native period, right? That we're still talking about fundamental rules and system. But I think there is a lot of success story, and there is a lot of inching forward thing that have been done already for IoT. It's a long thing. It's the future of the humankind already. But I think maybe Akbar, I think the ice cream one is just an example, right? Probably it's not the real case study that you're doing. But is there any one interesting thing that Dynatrace have done, and can you share?
Sure. So I won't name the name of the organization, but just to give you, we work with one of the biggest European car manufacturer brands, which I guess Thailand also people are in love with that particular brand as well. So they have IoT devices in the car. Now that IoT device obviously used for multiple purposes, which means there are multiple applications. It's a small device, multiple applications running on that IoT device itself. Those applications provide data for your car maintenance. How is the car being used? Also updating the consumer when he needs to maintain his car, or go for a repair check or whatever it's required. But also it's providing the car manufacturer the consumer behavior. How is that consumer driving the car? How many times he puts the brake, the pressure on the accelerator, right? The steering, the way he moves. All these details are collected so that it provides the R&D of the car manufacturer to next time when they come up with the next model or the better model, they know what the consumer wants, right? So we work with the car manufacturer to make sure that the applications running on that IoT device obviously is running perfectly, plus the data that is being sent backhand to the servers wherever they are, because this car brand is running globally, everywhere, right? In Thailand, in Australia, US, EMEA, everywhere, Japan, that particular brand. It's one of the world-renowned brand, right? So they need to make sure wherever the consumer are, how the consumer behavior, how the consumer is driving the car. And also how for the consumer, when they need to maintain, how they're using and providing updates as well. So it's both the sides, providing the data, collecting the data, applications running perfectly and providing that visibility. So we provide that visibility to the car manufacturer that there's no issue on the application. And if there are any issue on the application, whether it's on the endpoint, the IoT device itself, or it could be at the back end where the data is being collected and stored. It could be running issue happening at the back end side. So we need to make sure that we identify that problem, whether it's a network issue, that the data is being streamed over, whether it's a 5G technology or other technology that is being used. Wherever the problem is, we identify in a real-time basis to avoid the impact to the bottom line of both for the consumer and to the business side.
I would love to drive such car, right? That people know what next that I'm going to be sold to. So of course they should know my income to sell my better car. So yeah, it's fully sold. I'm sold as an end user for sure. And then I think since time is limited, I think would love to still hear from each of you one very quick, exciting stories, right? Because for example, I think from Appsflyer, I heard there is a ton of story that you detect a lot of fraud for the bank, for example. So is there any exciting things about that lines that you can share with the audience about the IoT success cases?
So I don't think I can share anything specific about any financial institutions.
Of course.
But I guess, with attribution, surprisingly, there is a lot of mobile ad fraud that wastes a lot of marketing spend for a lot of our clients. And with the machine learning and AI that we've been able to apply to detect bots or fake installs, we've saved quite a few of our clients a significant sum of money that they can then reinvest back into their marketing. It's amazing how many people try to game the system in something where you think, what, this exists in this world? But it's a reality, particularly in our region, that we constantly have to monitor, and we're glad that we can provide that as a value to all of our clients.
I see. So saving marketing spend, right, with AI machine learnings, especially. So I think for the last ones, I think business, when they go to IoT, need to go through many phases, and I think Sulabh, you have advices, right, to many business as well to go through these phases, right? There is a different stages. So is there any one advices that you could advise to business when it comes to looking at the opportunity in IoT? What should be their mindset?
Oh, wow, that's a big, broad question, I think. But Jack, I think, the number one thing is there is a little bit of a belief factor. I must just put that out there, right? I think in certain areas, the value of digital has been absolutely clearly proven out, right? And that's especially true on the consumer side. On the business side or the enterprise side, I think there is still a little bit of a belief factor. There's still a little bit of trust that, this technology will deliver. I think it's just too new for there to be enough case studies. We all have them, but I think as an institutionally, established idea, it's still a little bit nascent. And one thing I would always say is, you've got to believe a little bit that this is the future. Everyone here and everyone around the world is not lying about this, right? I think there is huge benefits to being a first mover. Couple that with, you obviously see the benefits in the cost side, the top line, bottom line, all of that. The other thing I would say is, with so many vendors out there now trying to offer IoT, frankly, this is a good time to get in on a good deal, right? Once the solution and technology is well established, the pricing will get established. And I think this is a really, really good time to be put your hand up, say, we'll pilot it, we'll enjoy the, preferential, pricing and other support that comes with it, and run with it. But there is, I think, a longer topic around a bit of a cultural shift as well, right? That it goes along that belief thing that I was talking about, but it truly is a transformation. I cannot stress that enough, right? This is not an IT project. I think if the one advice, one guidance I would give to executives is digital IoT, especially, it's not an IT project. It is a transformation of the way you are getting insights into your business, the way you're running your business, how you're taking those decisions on a daily, weekly, monthly basis is all backed by data and AI. And you really have to transform yourselves as executive management and your organization to really make the most of it.
Golden advice on top of the melted ice cream and and the football field for me.
I think
so
we're all
guys,
getting hungry with ice
I
cream.
would love to take this even longer.
Ice cream on me. Ice cream on me today for everyone.
Ice cream on you today for everyone. So thanks everyone on the audience. I know that you would like to hear more, and the fact that there is much more stories that the audience here, they could not share due to the time limitations, but we are here for you. So I think as a summary, this is not something nascent. I think it's already been deployed. There is fully success stories. The ecosystem have all the players required to facilitate the IoT in the universal platform from the playing field, from the telco side, right, on the ways to the data governance and data security, from the Cloudflare side, on the way to the analyzing trillions and millions of data points from Dynatrace, make sure it's real-time, accurate, and all the way to the front end of the end user, like Appsflyer or Insider, facilitating the customer journey to bring the values from business to the end user. This is a small group of business that was facilitate this, but there is more to it. So if you're keen to know more, then feel free to reach out to any of us, and I hope you enjoy the content. So thank you very much, everyone, and happy Wednesday.
Thank you, Jack.
Cheers.
Bye-bye
จบลงไปเรียบร้อยนะครับสำหรับทุกเซสชันเลยของวันนี้นะครับขอบพระคุณทุกท่านมากนะครับก่อนอื่นเราอยู่กันมาตั้งแต่ 10 โมงเช้านะครับจนถึงตอนนี้4 โมง 45 นาทีแล้วนะครับเรียกว่าเป็นสาระเต็มแน่นเอียดทุกช่องทางท่านสามารถไปย้อนดูกันได้นะครับในช่องทางของ True Digital Group ทุกช่องทางเลยนะครับหรือจะเป็น True Digital Solution เพจโดยตรงของทาง True Digital ของเราเช่นกันนะครับแล้วก็ถ้าทุกท่านสนใจอยากจะดูข้อมูลต่างๆที่มันเกี่ยวกับสาระแบบนี้อีกในอนาคตติดต่อแล้วก็สั่นกระดิ่งดูของเราไว้ได้นะครับใน YouTube ก็มีเช่นกัน True Digital Group นะครับวันนี้ขอบพระคุณทุกท่านมากนะครับสำหรับการติดตามชมของงานของเรา True Digital นะครับ IoT TN Asia 2021นะครับจะเป็น biggest event ของปีนี้แล้วก็อยากจะให้ทุกท่านติดตามปีอะไรที่อะไรเยอะนะครับขอบคุณมากครับ